When I was about 18 years old, I joined the church and began attending ministry class. Our teacher at the time was Brother Chapman. He was an awesome teacher. He was able to really engage the class with humor and with stories and help us to expound the scriptures and the principles of the gospel. On one occasion, he explained to us that as a result of us growing up in the world, there are certain falsehoods that we've accepted as truth because we have just grown up in the world. He further explained that in order for us to overcome the world as we have been commanded to do, that we need to seek out these falsehoods that we've accepted as truth and change them and overcome them. And that's what I want to talk to you today about my experience, my discovery, and applying that principle, and helping me to understand that there is no need to argue in marriage, that there is no need for divorce within marriage or fighting. That a little bit of a background. I grew up, my parents were divorced. My dad was on his third marriage. My sisters have been divorced. Obviously, the culture with the world, with arguing, with fighting with marriage, with the divorce rate being as high as it is. That was my background. That was the atmosphere that I was raised in. And so at this point, I simply believed that fighting, arguments, divorce was part of marriage. That was a falsehood that I have accepted as truth and I never even thought to question until Brother Chapman taught me this. What I'm going to explain is how I really discovered this and applied this principle in my life, some of the challenges that I faced, and the result of me trying to apply the principle, living it the best that I can. It wasn't until I was a full-time missionary for the church that I really understood what Brother Chapman was trying to do. I was on a mission for about 6 months, and I was having a discussion with one of my ward mission leaders, Brother Housekeeper, and he explained that he couldn't understand why people argued, why people fought, why people got divorced. Because him and his wife Holly, they never argue, they never fight. And when I was hearing this, I was like, this is a humongous surprise. This is almost an epiphany to me because I never realized that that was an option. I always thought, like so many other people do, that fighting and arguments that's just part of marriage and that's what you have to deal with. But he explained that they never argue. I'm sure they have disagreements, but they overcome them, they talk about them, they don't argue, they don't fight. And as I've pondered that and as I've thought about that, the Spirit brought back to my mind the things that Brother Chapman taught me. And I realized that this was a falsehood that I've accepted as a truth that I never questioned just because that's how it was. That was the culture of my upbringing. But I was able to discover that argument is not needed in marriage. It's something that can be avoided as two people work hard at it. And of course, there's challenges with that. And as I've studied and as I searched for further material and as I've talked to friends, I realized that not everyone shared the same view. They had the view that I had for most of my life. That it's just part of marriage. Uh, and as I've applied these things, as I've strived to be better,